Hi, I'm Orgonite and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making something new called an Orgo-Sphere or an Orgon-Sphere. And I have never seen one of these be made, or I've never seen one like at all. Doesn't mean that nobody's making them, it just means that I personally haven't seen any. So I decided to try to make one myself and figure it out. And so this is my second one. I decided to make it with you guys, and I really love how it turned out. It's monochromatic in blue. I've got some blue goldstone, some steel shavings, some lapis lazuli, brass, turquoise howlite, zinc BBs. I even included some blue glitter, Amazonite, and then back to blue goldstone. And I think it's just a really special piece. I call it Tidal Wave. So if you're interested in making an Orgo-Sphere for yourself, or if you just want to see it be made, then stay tuned. We're going to get started making this right now. Okay, let's get started. So we will need a spherical mold, which is about 4 inches in diameter, and one side has a hole in it that we can still fill. Let's see here. Yeah, all the stones that I have I think are going to work in this piece. We're going to start with blue goldstone in the bottom. Then we're going to go to lapis lazuli, and this, if you notice, is kind of a bigger chunk gemstone, which we're not going to be able to fit through this little hole. So we're going to put this chunkier stone in the bottom portion that we can openly fill. And then when we get up, we can pour in the turquoise howlite into the hole and the Amazonite as well into the hole. So we are making an Orgo-Sphere, and let's get started. I'm using polyester casting resin, which comes in a big gallon jug, which I can't pour small amounts from, so I keep it in this jar no matter how icky sticky it gets. It's clean on the inside and it's going to work fine. So I'm going to start out with an ounce of resin. Pour it into my mixing cup. And I'm not sure how many drops of hardener it suggests for an ounce of resin, but whenever I used the suggested amount, I felt that it needed quite a bit more. So I use 9 drops to start and 9 drops for every ounce thereafter. And I'm starting out with an ounce, so it's going to be 18 drops. Okay, so we're just going to pour this straight on into our mold. I feel like I'm going to use a little bit more. That's just too small of a layer for what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, so we are just going to let that congeal. Okay, so it's time for my second layer, and I'm going to add steel shavings. Okay, so I'm just going to let this congeal, and I'll be back in about 45 minutes. Okay, so it's time to do our third layer, which is the lapis lazuli. Okay, so this layer I am going to do some brass shavings. Okay, so it's time for us to put the top of the sphere on the base and make sure that it's all fits snugly. Okay, so I think that's on pretty good. And I'll show you, I made a funnel out of a paper drinking cup. I just cut the little tip off of it so I could stick it in this hole and we can put whatever we need in here. And it's time for us to do the turquoise howlite. So I'm gonna just put this in dry and then I'm going to add my resin because I think it's gonna be a lot easier that way. Okay, so now we can pour some resin in. All right, so we got that layer done and we're just going to let that congeal and we'll come back to do another metal. Maybe we'll do copper BBs or zinc BBs. I'll figure it out. Okay, so I am running out of resin and if I want to finish this within the next day or so, I need to supplement my piece with epoxy resin in addition to my polyester casting resin because that's what I'm running out of. And so for this layer I'm going to use epoxy resin and I'm going to use glitter. Okay, epoxy resin, when I stir it up, is just filled to the brim with bubbles, so I'm going to have to attack it with my heat gun. And one thing I notice whenever I heat the epoxy resin with the heat gun, it becomes a lot less viscous and easier to pour. I don't know why that is, but I appreciate it. It makes it easier. I can feel it getting overheated. There's still several bubbles in there, but it's a lot better than it was. So I have this pack of glitter, and it goes right along with the colors that we're using. So I'm just gonna pour it into our resin here. And the one good thing about the glitter in this layer is that it will hide any of the bubbles from the epoxy resin. I mean, I don't mean to knock it, you know, for those who really enjoy using epoxy resin. I just get so many bubbles, it's hard to fight it off. Some of it goes away, but certainly not all of it. Okay, so we got that poured, and I'm gonna just let this cure overnight. It takes a lot longer for epoxy resin. Epoxy resin doesn't congeal. If you hear me talk about I'm gonna wait for this layer to congeal, polyester casting resin does congeal, but epoxy resin just gets more viscous until it just gets hard. And so it's got kind of a different feel to it and a different way to it. So I won't wait for this layer to congeal. I'm gonna wait for it to almost harden, which will be how it is tomorrow. It may even be completely hard by the time I get to it. And we'll do some more metal and add the Amazonite, and yeah, we'll see how far we can get with the resin that I do have. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add the Amazonite. Get my handy dandy filter, or funnel rather. Okay, I think that might be enough. And I'm not sure how much resin to use, so I'm just going to start with a low amount, and if I need more, I'll add it. Yep, it looks like I'm going to have enough resin to finish this off. So I'm going to go ahead and let this congeal, and it looks like we have about 1.5 layers left. So join me for that. Okay, so it's time for our last layer. And I think I may have just enough resin to finish this. And for this last layer, I'm going to use blue goldstone. Okay, maybe that's enough. Okay, so you want to fill it all the way up to the top, and even throughout this little hole, you want to fill it to the top of that little hole, because as this hardens, it's gonna sink down a little bit. Okay, so we're just gonna let that harden. Okay, so it's time to demold our piece and see what we have. So far, so good. Wow, this is really pretty. From our blue gold stone, our steel, lapis lazuli, brass, turquoise howlite, zinc BBs, our layer of glitter, amazonite, and back to blue gold stone. So I don't know if you can see this, but this little nipple is stuck on top of it from the hole that was in here. So we need to file this down and sand the edges where you can feel there's an edge difference. We need to sand that down and blend it a little better. And when we sand it, it's going to become rough, as the rest of this is nice and smooth and shining. So after we sand it and it becomes rough, we will hit it with the clear coat and make it look nice again. So anyway, I just wanted to show you what it looks like now that we're all finished, and I think it's gorgeous. Anyway, so I'm gonna sand the edges and I'll be back to hit it with the clear coat. Okay, so I'm done filing or sanding. And just so you know, what I use to do my sanding is an emery board. I get a lot more control out of using this than I do sandpaper. So that's how I sanded it. And I have this nice little stand that it fits in. Nicely and neatly. But from where we sanded, it's now dull and kind of scratched up a little bit. So I'm gonna hit it with the clear coat. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this dry, and we'll look at it when it's all done. Okay, so I got everything done and I've sprayed it and it's dried and it looks great. This is where the nipple was. I filed it down and I sprayed it, as you saw, so it's dry now. And this is the way it looks. I think it's beautiful. I'm excited to put it on my Etsy page. And if you're interested in any of the products that I make here on my channel, I put them on my Etsy page and my website. You'll find the links in the description box. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. It makes me super happy when you do that. And go ahead and subscribe to my channel for more interesting ideas on Orgonite projects. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to be made aware of new projects when they come out. I'm Orgone. Thanks for joining me in my Orgonite studio. Have yourself a wonderful day. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, please give me a big thumbs up. I certainly would appreciate it. And subscribe to my channel for some more ideas on new Orgonite projects. And don't forget to hit the notification bell if you want to be made aware when new projects come out. I'm Orgone. Thank you for joining me in my Orgonite studio. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day.